What do all of these things have in common? Well, you'd be right if you said that they all move, but they move because they have internal combustion engines. Internal combustion engines are important to our everyday lives. They keep things moving, literally. I have an ever-growing passion for cars, so I have decided that I'm going to pursue a career and get my degree in automotive technology. Important things we will learn about today are what internal combustion engines are, the history of them, how they work, and how we can make them better. The words internal combustion engine are kind of intimidating, but let me teach you a little bit about them, and they might not seem so scary. An internal combustion engine, or ICE engines, are the most common heat engine and are used to turn chemical energy into mechanical power. You're going to see them in everyday things like cars, trucks, buses, boats, airplanes, and trains. In 1618, we see the very first ICE engine ever designed, but it was never built. Then we skip over to 1807, and the very first ICE engine was used to power a vehicle, but it wasn't successful. And then in 1862, we see the four-stroke engine patented by a French engineer. In 1876, Nicholas Otto invented, and then later on he patented the successful four-stroke engine. And then in 1886, Carl Benz received the very first patent for a gas-fueled car. And then in 1890, the very first four-stroke, four-cylinder engine was built by Wilhelm Maybach. Since then, not a whole lot has changed with these engines. They still have the same concepts, therefore, why change it if it's not broken? It's important to note that there are different types of internal combustion engines. You have your spark ignition, your SI, or your compression engine, CI. Compression engines are going to be your diesels. Those are characterized by the fact that they use compression to ignite their fuel. Whereas spark ignition is going to use a spark to ignite the fuel. For spark ignition, you're going to see your two strokes, four strokes, and your rotary engines. But we're going to talk about the four stroke. So, how do they work? What does it need? Well, to function, they need fuel, air, spark, and compression. Along with timing and a good ratio of each of these components, you get combustion. And combustion is where the power comes from. Within each of the cylinders, you're going to have four strokes: an intake, a compression, a combustion, and exhaust stroke. They look like this when put together. They play consecutively, and when done successfully, it creates your most optimal power output. When you add more and more of these cylinders together into one engine, you get more and more power. So your single is going to be a lot different than your V12. As far as variations go, your single and your twin cylinder are going to both be seen in motorcycles. You have a triple and a straight five, which those are kind of your oddball variations, but you still see them around sometimes. You have your four cylinders, which can be inline, V-shape, or flat. Those are everyday car kind of it's a variation for your everyday cars. Then you have a six cylinder, which is also going to be inline, V-shape, or flat. Those are also seen in everyday cars and cars that are kind of sporty. Past 8-cylinder, you're going to see everything in a V-shape. So you have your V8s, which is going to be your muscle cars and your trucks. You're going to have your V10s and V12s and your supercars. And then we have the W16, which is practically two V8s put side by side, but it was introduced in 2005 by Bugatti. And since then, they have been the only manufacturer to ever use a W16 engine in a street legal vehicle. Since you know how they work, how can we make them better? Well, To start with, we can look at upgrading our air intakes, our exhaust system, the throttle bodies, fuel injectors, and your ignition systems. Those 5 are going to be your basic first steps for modifying your engine. And then after that, you're going to look into your turbocharging and your superchargers, as well as tuning up your ECU. Those are going to have even more of a power output. But to have those, you have to have your first 4 frontmen. So how can we improve them even further? Past performance. Well, lean air fuel ratios, friction reduction, direct fuel injection, turbocharging, all can lead to fuel efficiency, whereas exhaust gas recirculation improve combustion, and then your catalytic converters, which a lot of people like to take off their cars to make them louder, will all help with reducing emissions. There's a lot more under the hood to learn about these internal combustion engines, but I've given you a general idea. Now you know what they are, the history of them, how they work, and how they can be better. After all that, do you think they're even more complex than you thought to begin with? Ta-da.